On the upside is fairly confined. As we said before, it's only 2% of the entire landmass of the city. So it is a very walkable downtown district, which is a benefit when you're trying to put together a plan for the future in terms of getting people here, stay here, spend some time here. The strategy plan lays out 3 goals, and I'll read them for our viewers, and then we'll respond to them. They're fairly lofty, but by the standards of this summary, it seems that they are achievable, at least in most part. Attract 20,000 more residents, which would bring the city of St. Paul to about 30,000. If we're talking about that core district. It also wants to create 20,000 jobs. That's a bit more challenging, but in doing so, it helps the other 2 become more viable. And generate a 20% increase in visitors. And the visitor part of it is starting to take care of itself. But let's start with 20,000 more residents. And I'll just throw it out there. Creating 20,000 more residents means, I think, if I read through this plan correctly, that it means converting commercial space to residential. It also means doing it in an affordable way. I mean, again, I'll take my daughters for example. There are parts of St. Paul that they can't afford to live in. And if you're talking about new construction of existing buildings, that's not cheap, right? So how do you attract 20,000 more residents, build some nice places for them to live, convert some office space? It seems relatively daunting with the cost of that type of construction today. Anybody want to weigh in on how that's feasible?
I sure can. I'll get started, and you have some experience building it. The first question is, you asked how do you recruit those or how do you attract those residents? One of the incredible things that we see, and I think as a big opportunity that's pointed out in this plan is, and you said, how do you get people to want to be downtown? The truth is, I don't think the challenge is how do you get people to want to be downtown. I think the challenge for us around this table is how do we build a downtown that facilitates people being downtown in the ways that people are showing us that they want to be here. One of the ways people are showing us they want to be here, we already talked about events. We've talked a little bit, we've evoked the riverfront. The Mississippi River sort of sells itself. One of the ways that people want to be downtown is to live downtown. And so as by contrast to some of the office spaces that we've seen empty, particularly since the onset of the pandemic, we see over 90% occupancy rates in our residential properties downtown. So you're right, it's a challenge to build it. So the challenge is building them. Not so much as getting people to want to live downtown. That's there. We have to be able to provide the infrastructure for it. We're doing that to try to help facilitate that in every way that we can. Right now, we actually have some pretty strong investment signals in terms of some of those buildings being purchased that were abandoned by Madison Equities. In terms of new investors coming into our spaces, we have to work at the city to help facilitate those permitting processes to help make sure those purchases turn into projects, and that's where a lot of the great partners like those around the table come in.
Let me just clarify something for our viewers. You mentioned Madison Equities, and for our viewers who may not know, Madison Equities was the largest commercial and retail owner of properties in St. Paul for years, right? Mm-hmm. And over the last decade, slowly, and in some cases abruptly, picked up and just left. Very little of it was sold. Most of it was just, as you mentioned, they just walked away, right? So it left St. Paul with a lot of square feet of abandoned property.
And their principal owner passed away suddenly,
yes.
which was a significant part of that story. Right. But I think there's folks who would suggest that a lot of those properties have needed additional investment for quite a long time, and so that's where kind of having partners who are willing to invest and push our quality of life and push our quality of infrastructure downtown and amenities downtown is important.
I feel like you want to respond. You as I understand it, there is a path to success in doing that, in converting properties.
There is a path to success in converting properties, and the next 3 to 5 years presents a unique time to take on that success. Across the country, new construction has slowed down dramatically on housing due to high interest rates, and in this period, much like 15 years ago, the ability for the private sector, labor, to lean in with the federal, state, and local governments to drive this type of investment is really an opportune period. How we maximize our existing spaces the next 3 to 5 years is where the opportunity sits. And with some of the tools we have available at the federal level, to go to your commentary on affordability, it allows St. Paul to really deliver housing that can be the full spectrum of affordability, from low-income tax credit to missing middle to the higher end products. We just delivered Landmark Tower next door, which is one of the higher end historic conversions. 400 residents will live there. But on kind of the middle side of that, there's buildings that can really hit the missing middle because of their layouts and other features. And then there's the ability to pair in historic credits with low income credits to deliver low income. But the whole spectrum can be achieved with that federal resource coming in pairing with state and local.
So essentially, you're saying it can be done for an affordable way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One
Joe.
unique feature about downtown St. Paul is that for, I don't know, a variety of perhaps odd reasons, or maybe just what felt like bad luck for a long while, the floor plates, the size of the buildings we have in downtown St. Paul are relatively small. So for years we're frustrated when an employer would come to town and say, hey, we're looking for 50,000 feet of office space or 60,000 feet of office space. They'd come in and they'd want to do that with maybe 2 floors, looking for a minimum floor plate size of 30,000 square feet. And most buildings in downtown St. Paul, for whatever reason, are 10 to 12,000 square feet. We brought in an architectural firm, Gensler, to study 20 buildings, and they've done this hundreds and hundreds of times across the US and Canada. They typically find about a third of the buildings might be well suited. Half of our buildings are well suited for conversion. So that is, I think, something we have put some wind in our sails, and especially the Madison Equities portfolio is a little bit outsized in that kind of ideal building.
Can I weigh in on that?
Yes, please do. And then we're going to go to jobs.
Thanks. I just want to point out, I think it's important to note as we talk about bringing residents to downtown, we have more than 10,000 residents who already live downtown. So I think it's important to lean into what makes living downtown so special, not just building the space for people to live, but why are those 10,000 plus people living here? And one of the reasons is you get to live in downtown St. Paul. You get to have all of those amenities right outside your doorstep, all of those events. You don't have to shovel your snow. You don't have to mow your lawn. You get to live without a car. And so I think as we think about what it takes to bring more people downtown, we need to double down on that. So for example, we need people to be able to walk to a grocery store without getting in the car that they abandoned to live downtown. We need people, and some people around this table will disagree with this, but that's why we call it a debate, to be able to walk through the skyways in a climate-controlled environment or in a wheelchair, because that's why they chose to move downtown. So I think those things make downtown living special. We can't just pretend like it's just like any other neighborhood. It's unique, and the more we can make it that kind of unique, the better off we'll be.
Do you have to live downtown to work downtown? In other words, I mean, it seems like the two would go hand in hand. If I'm going to live downtown, I might as well work there. But is somebody going to live downtown and work elsewhere?
I know a lot.
And is that a challenge?
No, I mean, I think a lot of my constituents live downtown and work downtown and tell me that's how they're able to adopt the car-free lifestyle. That's why they chose to move downtown. Young professionals in particular who are working for all of our corporations and can just walk to work and then enjoy happy hour afterwards right outside their home or their place of employment. But then, of course, people can live downtown and work anywhere. I think we welcome all folks to live downtown.
There's something nice about the reverse commute.
Right.
You're going on the right side of traffic both ways.
Chris, I have to believe that for you as a large employer downtown, this notion of development and residential development in particular is music to your ears. I know it is for us.
Absolutely is. We have a number of employees who walk to work. We're really excited about the development opportunities outside of our headquarters. We have 2 towers in downtown St. Paul, and we're in the middle of that stressed area where a lot of the former Madison Equity properties are now vacant or have high vacancy rates. And we're excited about this being this unique opportunity and time to transform our direct neighborhood. And when we have people like those sitting around the table who are demonstrating a commitment, it makes it really exciting for us.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about jobs. The goal is to create 20,000 more jobs in downtown St. Paul. There are ways to do that. There are ideas on how to do that, and I'd like to get some of those ideas from all of you when we come back right after this.